Hello and welcome everybody to our podcast. This is Welcome to Livingston, where we invite local community leaders, events, businesses to talk about their businesses. And every once in a while, we take a step back and talk about real estate, which is what we're going to be doing today. My name is Don Putkela.
And I'm Angela Putkela, and we're with the Putkela Group Real Estate Professionals.
Yes, and today we are putting our realtor hat on and talking a little bit about real estate. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, but the nice part about this episode, we've had some episodes that related to fitness and other health things. And so we were thinking about how kind of health in the home might look. And so this should be a useful episode for pretty much any homeowner.
Yes, and it's going to be good all year long, but we are talking about it right now because we are in January right now, and January is National Radon Awareness Month. Yes. Mm-hmm. So for all you guys listening out there, the first thing you might ask yourself, well, what is radon and why does it matter to me, and what does it have to do with health in the home? So, I'm going to try to not get too technical because I don't want to get into the science of it and such. But just off the top, radon naturally occurs in the soil. It's decaying uranium, right?
Well, radioactive.
Yes.
Invisible, odorless gas.
Yes. But it's decaying in the soil, comes up through the soil, builds up in the house. It is the number 2 leading cause of lung cancer. It's one of those things that when we have someone go into a home, we test for radon.
Yeah, that's part of the inspection. That's something that we are pretty doggone firm because the county does have a healthy amount, and it's important for someone purchasing a home or living in one, frankly.
Right.
To make sure they know where that level is.
Also what makes this relevant is with January being Radon Awareness Month, you can go into your local health department in Livingston County, the Livingston Health Department, and they are going to be able to give you a free test kit to take home. It is a little carbon bag. You hang it in your basement. You mark off on it what time you started the test, when you ended the test. I think it's 48 or 72 hours. It has to be in your home. And then you mail it out. And a couple weeks later, a test result comes back, and it'll tell you what the radon level is in your house. And one of those things to look at is the EPA says the number that they're looking at is 4.0, and that is percoliter parts per billion. But 4.0 is the number they're looking at, and they're saying that if you are above that level, they recommend putting in a remediation system in.
Right. That is the level that is considered specifically unacceptable.
Right. That being said, if you're at 3.9, I would recommend, hey, might be a good idea anyway.
Right. Because really no level of radon is healthy for you.
Right. But we've seen levels of, 0.2 in a house. We've seen levels of 8 or 9 in a house. But the thing is, it's not something to freak out about or stress over. It is an easy thing to remediate. Right. It's just you don't know it's there if you don't test for it.
Right. And it's something that you don't want to not know. You
exactly.
should know the level of your house, right?
Right. And the levels are worse in the basement than upstairs. So it's, in most cases, it's coming up through your sump pump. Okay. It's coming out of the ground underneath your house, and it starts to build up in the house. One of the things we found that was interesting is we had a client whose level was low. And then when they moved, all of a sudden the level was high. And it's because they had their windows for the same house, right? They had their windows replaced, and it changed the airflow in the house. And now radon was able to build up because their house was sealed more than it was before.
Right. So that's something to watch out for. And the interesting part for me is we had 2 listings that were side by side, over the course of the same year, right? And in one of those listings, the house was very high on radon, but the house next door was very low. So it really depends on each individual home.
Right. It's one of those things that we thought it's Radon Awareness Month. Why don't we talk about home health? And the first thing to start with is radon because it's very important. Top of mind, right?
Right.
And the other thing I would say is I feel like these home tests are fairly accurate. We had the house previous to the one we're in now tested by both our inspectors, very high-end test kit that you get the results immediately. and it takes the barometric pressure and everything in the house into account. And then we did the carbon bag that we hung and we sent out, and it came back. And the results were fairly consistent.
Pretty close, yeah. I was surprised at how close.
Yes.
So.
However, as a homeowner, if you're buying a house, you want to do that rapid result one, so you find out immediately, because you don't have time to wait 3-4 weeks for that test to come back.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
So, and then certainly there's people that we know that they haven't moved in 20 years, or maybe radon wasn't something that people advocated for way back when they moved. So that's a great candidate for using this free test. Now, if you're listening to this and it's passed or they've run out of the test, know that you can purchase a test over at Home Depot. And I think some of those tests are only $15 or $20. They're reasonably affordable.
Right.
But that's an important thing for your own health, and
especially if you have a finished basement and you're spending a lot of time down there, or you have a bedroom down there and such, radon, it'll come up into the main level of the house and such, but that air gets stagnant in the basement. Mm-hmm. And that's why that's where they're testing, because that's where it's going to be highest in the house. Yeah. So you want to be aware of that.
Absolutely. We were at a closing once, and it was, I think the seller on the other side, we were mentioning radon. Somehow it became a topic, and they had never heard of radon. They weren't familiar with it, and they were really blown away at this idea. Apparently they had a family member growing up that lived in the basement and ended up developing a advanced form of lung cancer, even though she had never smoked a day in her life. And they were dumbfounded of how could she have gotten lung cancer? It doesn't make sense. And he looked back to say, geez, I wonder if maybe there was radon.
Right.
There.
And not that was the cause.
No, we don't know.
You have no idea.
We have no idea. But in terms of anecdotally, it was interesting.
But it is one of those things that I think people should get tested on. And it's the beginning of our list in terms of home health. But seeing as it's Radon Awareness Month, and it's something that a lot of people don't know enough about. Unless you are buying a home, radon doesn't come up all that often in terms of something that you should be aware of, something that a homeowner may think about testing for in their house. They talk about, hey, let's get the water tested, those things. But radon is up there.
And we were just reading an article from WHMI the other day, and I feel like there was mention of just how high the percentage or the likely percentage in the county.
Yeah, no, Livingston County is a hot spot for radon. Southeast Michigan in general. It has a tendency to particularly have high radon levels. That being said, remember, your house could have a low level. Your next door neighbor could have a higher level. So it's something that you can get checked and you can get taken care of. Once, if your level is high, don't think, oh my gosh, this is something that's so hard to be taken care of. Radon remediation systems run somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,000. So is it a pricey repair? Yes, but it's not something astronomical, and it's something that's easily taken care of to remove it from your home.
Right. Because once those are put in, then the levels are
100%
much better.
Yep. So while we're talking about home health, though, we talked about radon a little bit. That was one of our main topics, but we wanted to talk about some other things in terms of your home's health and how that can affect you, right?
Right.
Number one, I see you have, fire prevention on here.
Yes, I do. See, I'm the one that takes the notes. And,
yes.
Don likes to fly by the seat of his pants a little more, shoot from the hip, right?
Yep.
But it makes for better conversations. To me, one of the first things after radon, even though radon definitely is an important thing in home health, but it's fire and fire prevention. It's shocking how many houses don't have working smoke detectors that we go through.
Right. Well, one of the things first, make sure you're checking those batteries on your smoke detectors. Number two is if you are elderly, if those smoke detectors are hard to get to, in many cases, you can call your local fire department. They'll come out, check your smoke detectors for you. They'll change the batteries for you because they want to make sure that that's a safe environment. But what you're speaking to is not only sometimes are they not working, or they took it right off because it was too close to the kitchen and it went off periodically when they were cooking.
Yeah.
But houses of a certain age, it was not code to have smoke detectors in the bedrooms. So you may only have one smoke detector on a floor. You want smoke detectors in your bedrooms. You want smoke detectors in the hallway. You want a smoke detector on each level. And you want those smoke detectors to be linked together. So if the smoke detector goes off in the basement because there's a fire in the basement, it's also going off in your bedroom and waking you up. So, that's an important aspect, right?
Absolutely.
Fire extinguishers are important. If you have a fire extinguisher in your garage and it's been there for 20 years, you no longer have a fire extinguisher. You just have a big piece of red metal that doesn't work anymore. So, make sure that you're checking the levels on that it still has pressure.
Right. Yeah. So checking those things on a regular basis makes a big difference. The typical not leaving a candle unattended. I remember once when we were doing some cleaning and had I feel like that was a candle that, there's a slight little fire that started.
Yes.
So, those things do end up happening. One thing that I found out recently that I was unaware of is how important it is in general to sleep with the door shut to your bedroom from the fire perspective. So if the fire starts at night, there's some cases where the fire is able to be blocked and not make it into the bedroom.
Because of the door.
Right.
Right. So that's an important aspect as well. Yep. One of the things in terms of fire prevention you need to get out there is your lint hose behind your dryer. People will have those that they will not check for years, decades.
Right.
And the lint can build up in that hose. And especially if the exterior vent on your house gets clogged, that you can have heat build up in there. And that can be a source to start a fire. So, I cleaned ours out, about 6-7 months ago, because our dryer was actually saying, check the lint trap. And it wasn't the lint trap in the dryer. It was the hose that from the previous owners had gotten so clogged up that I just ended up replacing the hose.
But
it was really bad. You could barely see through there. It had so much lint in there. So that's something that you want to make sure to be careful with.
Absolutely. So, and speaking of cleaning things, I know you had mentioned duct cleaning. So as we're making our march around the house from the health perspective.
Yeah. Duct cleaning is an important thing to do as well. If you have allergies, if you have asthma, those ducts can pick up a lot of dust and lint and debris and such that gets into the air. And just for your own personal health and the health of the house, getting those ducts cleaned every couple of years can really affect the air quality in your house. It is not as expensive as you think it is to get done. And after the first time, it's cheaper afterwards because they get it all set up to do it easier later. But duct cleaning is an important thing to do, especially if you have pets. If you have dogs,
Right.
you have cats that are shedding all the time, those ducts can get pretty dirty. And it's amazing the first time you clean the ducts. They'll show you a video of just how filthy your ducts were. And you're pushing that air into the house and breathing it.
But it's so important in terms of your home maintenance and taking care of your home, not just for the sake of the home, but for the sake of your own health.
Yes. So in terms of home maintenance, well, in terms of your health, one of the things we see is people put in expensive water softener systems, expensive RO filters. They have a filter on their fridge for drinking the water out of the fridge, right?
Yeah.
And they've never changed the filters.
Oh
so
my gosh.
so those systems worked for a year, and now it's sometimes as bad as not having a system, or possibly even worse because you never change the filters. In fact, one of the interesting things I'll find on inspections is we'll go into a house that one of our buyers is buying, and they'll have a problem that there's no water pressure in the house. And the inspector will go downstairs and they'll say, see this filter right here? I'm going to hit this lever here to bypass the filter. And all of a sudden there's pressure in the house that these people have been living with no pressure in their lines for gosh knows how many years. And it's because they never replaced the filter. And the filter got so clogged up that now it's stopping pressure in the house.
Wow.
So you're dealing with a horrible shower because you didn't
Change the filter.
and you may not even know there's a filter down there.
Right.
So go check in your utility room if you have bad water pressure and see if you have a filter in your line to change.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
It's a nice little aha there.
Yes,
So,
it is. But same thing with your water softener system. Fill the salt in it. If there's no salt in the system's not working anymore. It's not working efficiently.
right.
So it's part of your health and your house's health.
To take care of.
Take care of. Oh, I have spots on all my dishes. My glass in the shower is all spotty and everything. I have a water softener system. Well, do you have salt in it?
Yeah.
Is it working?
Yeah, because we have the systems in place. And in many cases, a lot of money was spent to put that system in.
Right. Which leads me to my next one. Oh, go ahead.
Can I have an analogy, though?
Yes.
It's like this car is wonderful, but it's just not working anymore. It's like, well, you have to fill it with gas from time to time.
You do.
Right?
Right.
You have to change the oil.
You can't put a sticky note over the check engine light.
Right. Exactly. So go ahead.
Oh, no. That's really good. No, the next thing I was going to talk about is your septic.
Yes.
Yes.
Septic is very interesting. So on the real estate side, that's one of the most costly things that come up for our sellers, or in terms of, buyer purchasing a home, because I think some people just, I don't know if they know.
The toilet flushes and the stuff disappears and they don't worry about it.
Well, that doesn't mean it's working though.
That's exactly right.
Okay. When a septic field is shot, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars.
No, on the cheap side, you're talking 5 or 6. On the expensive side, you're talking 25, 30.
Yeah.
Sometimes above that. But it's a very costly, just a repair is very expensive.
And there's an expectation from a person purchasing a home that the septic field is in working order.
So your septic tank needs to be pumped. Okay. You need to have a company come out there and they're going to suck all the stuff out of the system and they're going to clean the filter in your septic tank. There's a filter in there as well to make sure that the system's running accurately.
How often?
Well, that's a good question,
that's
right?
the $1 million question.
It depends on how often you're using your system. So a single person or a couple with no kids is using it differently than a family with kids, okay? All of us that are parents know how often is your washing machine running? How often is your dishwasher running? How many showers are happening? How many people are going to the bathroom in your house, right? So
the greater the number of people living in a house, the more wear and tear on that septic.
Exactly. So I'd say, the first time you have it pumped, the septic company will tell you how often it should be pumped. In general, every 2 to 3 years.
Right.
A system that is under heavy use and maybe the system is near the end of its life or it needs to be remediated in some way, it may be every year. If you're a family of 2 and you're not using it all that often and you're only doing 2 loads of laundry a week, every 5 to 6 years, but it needs to be taken care of.
Right.
Okay. And you can't be flushing diapers down the toilet. You can't be using, if you're on a septic system, you shouldn't be using a garbage disposal and putting those things into the system because those things can reduce the life and the health of your system. It's home health. It's just like any other system. You need to get a checkup sometimes.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes sense.
You need to go to the dentist to get your teeth cleaned. Same thing with the things in your house. You need to get them cleaned, which leads me to your furnace and AC.
Right.
Service them.
Yeah.
Extend the life of them. Take care of them. And for the biggest advice I can give you, change your filters. Right?
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yes.
Since we are in so many different homes and buyers and sellers and so forth, it's amazing how many homeowners don't.
Well, it's amazing how many homeowners don't. And you know what the other thing that is amazing? Our inspector, Baker Inspections, we use quite often, and Ken is really good at this. When he goes down and he checks a furnace, a lot of times he finds that the filter is put in backwards. There's a right way to put in the filter in terms of the airflow of your furnace. And he will put an arrow, he'll pull out a Sharpie and they'll draw an arrow right next to where the filter is on which direction the airflow goes to make sure that you're putting the filter in right because again, you're reducing the efficiency of your furnace. And remember, not only is it causing your furnace to work harder and to reduce the life of it, you're increasing your bill every month.
Jeez.
So it's using more gas.
Yeah.
Right. So having that yearly service where they're coming in and they're checking the furnace and they're making sure it's cleaned and they're checking the air conditioner and they're making sure everything works right. Yeah, it could cost you, a couple $100 a year, but the system costs you $5,000-$6,000
Right.
on the cheap end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is these are very expensive repairs, and it boils down to an ounce of prevention is definitely worth that pound of cure.
Right. Yes. And my other advice of the day, your air conditioners. I know that people have gotten advice of cover your air conditioner in the winter and put a tarp over the top of it. And I see it all the time, and they've got it bungeed and everything.
Well, so the snow doesn't get in.
So the snow doesn't get in, and they're protecting it. But they are creating a home for squirrels and chipmunks, and they will get into your system and they will eat your wires, and it will cause you problems later on. So for those listening out there that says, hey, I've covered it for years and it's never been a problem, that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen to you this year.
Right.
Okay. You can put a board over the top of it if you want to make sure that snow isn't building up on top, but do not cover it all up.
Don't make a cozy little home.
Do not make a cozy little home. Yes. They eat the wiring, and it's $400 or $500 to get that fixed.
Yeah. And we've heard that for some people in terms of when it was a brand new air conditioning, they really wanted to make sure to take care of it. They bought the cover for it and everything. And here, this horrible thing happens to the brand new air conditioning.
100%.
So in terms of gutters, I know you wanted to touch on those and downspouts.
Yeah, no, I wanted to touch on the fact that you need to clean your gutters. And here's one of the interesting things. So if you allow things to build up in your gutters, right? You have leaves, sticks, the granules off your house, your roof are coming down into the gutters and everything. And you leave that in there. Not only is your gutter getting clogged, you're adding weight to the gutter that maybe could cause damage, right? But then when the snow comes in, the water can't get down, and now you're causing ice damming possibly there that's leading up the top. You're reducing the life of your roof. You're possibly causing leak points to come in and such. There's a lot of things that can be cured by just doing that maintenance, getting up in the fall and cleaning out your gutters. Making sure that you don't have trees overhanging your roof where the leaves are coming down and they're building up in an area to cause those ice damming. And then like with our house, we have wood fascia underneath it, right? Mm-hmm. So then you're getting the moisture build up, and then the wood's starting to rot, and then the paint can start peeling and such. So you want to make sure that you're doing that little bit of maintenance to take care of that. Again, like you said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. But that little bit of time that you're spending now is saving you thousands of dollars down the road. And if you do not want to get up there and clean out your gutters every year, spend the money and get a gutter guard.
Yeah, this is true, because ladders do become a very dangerous thing in terms of within the home and accidents that we hear about.
Oh, yeah, no, ladders can be a huge safety issue. You do not want your 70-year-old father-in-law getting up on a ladder. You do not want to be up on a ladder yourself all the time when it's, here's the funny thing that I see, and it's not funny at all, but what I see is I didn't clean my gutters in the fall, and now it's January or February, and now I'm up on a gutter in ice, trying to chip away the ice that's causing problems up there in the bad weather in a non-safe environment that I could have taken care of this in September or October when it was nice out there, and something that was a 10-minute job then is now a 3 or 4 hour job in the cold with potential for getting injured.
Right. No, that's an important thing that you want to get ahead of on
Yes.
any of these things.
Yes.
We don't have this on here, but could you speak to mold for a moment?
Mold.
Because especially for people that are in their house for a long period of time, if the home was built in the 1980s, 1990s, where the bathrooms are vented.
Yeah, so mold in the attic is something that can occur in your home. Mold in the attic is caused by a lack of ventilation. A lack of ventilation is caused by a few different things. One, you could have a ridge vent that's not working correctly. What we see a lot of times is a homeowner, through no fault of their own, added new insulation to the attic to make the house more efficient, right? But the company came up there and they just sprayed more insulation in the attic, and they clogged the baffles down at in the eaves. So now you have no airflow in the house because they poured insulation over the top of it, and you're causing heat and moisture in the attic that's causing mold. The other thing, which you alluded to, is in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and early 90s even, when they put bath fans in the bathrooms, they had those go up to the attic, and they just had them go near the ridge vent or near a vent instead of venting them out directly. And what that means is every time you take a shower, you're just adding hot moisture into the attic that has nowhere to go and can cause mold. So, a company will come in and they'll remediate that. But I've talked to mold companies. A lot of times, all they're doing, they're taking care of the mold, but to solve it, they're bringing a rake up there and they're pulling the insulation back from the baffles that you already have that got clogged by the insulation you added.
Right.
Right.
So I think this is something that's relevant for someone that hasn't moved for a long time and hasn't gotten a new roof. And it would definitely
when you're
be
getting
wise to,
when you're getting a new roof, you should make sure that those vents are vented the way they're supposed to be now through the attic with a vent, and make sure that they're not just dumping into the attic.
Right.
Because if your house was built in the 70s or 80s, there's a good chance that those vents are just dumping into the attic. It may have been fixed when a roof was put on, because there's been a roof put on. If you bought a house, if your house was built in 1980, it's had a couple roofs.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's been fixed, but we come across it more often than not.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising. So something for homeowners to be aware of.
100%. The other thing I wanted to talk about really quick is cleaning out your chimney flue. If you have a fireplace that you are using wood in the fireplace, creosote builds up in your chimney, and you have to make sure to get that chimney swept every few years, because that can be a fire hazard, going back to fire hazards, right? So if you are burning those 3-hour logs, the 3-hour logs don't have creosote in them, there's less chance of a buildup. But if you are cutting wood, you're bringing in wood, you're, like
that natural smell,
natural smell,
which I love too,
and it hasn't been dried out enough yet, you can have a buildup in there. And you want to make sure. Now, you can go to Home Depot and you can buy a log that is specially formulated to help clean out your chimney flue. But that doesn't mean every, 5 years or something, you shouldn't hire a person to come in and clean that out. We had ours cleaned out.
Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim chiree.
100%.
The sweep is as lucky can be.
Yes. So you want to make sure to do that.
Yes.
Yep. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is, we do not do this, but there's people out there that still drain their water heaters to clean it out every couple of years. If you're on a well and you have iron in your water, or you're having calcium buildup, if you see calcium buildup in your tank behind your toilet or in your faucets and such, you're getting calcium buildup in your water heater as well. So flushing that out really helps. And if you have a tankless water heater, those need to be flushed out. And that will get taken care of by the same person that you're hiring to maintain your furnace and your AC. They'll take care of your water heater as well. So you're taking care of 3 systems by getting on a service contract with one of these companies. And remember also, when your furnace gives out on December 20th and it's 15 degrees outside, if you're on a service contract, they're going to get out to you a lot quicker than you cold calling places that you've never talked to. So they're going to take care of you because, you have a pre-established relationship.
Right. Because things happen. And when they happen, it's always at the worst possible time.
100%. Things happen in a house.
Yeah.
And what I would tell people, maintaining your house costs money. But it's better to be spending the little amounts to maintain your house than to drop a huge check, again, at the worst possible time.
Right.
Because you weren't taking care of it, right?
Exactly. Because you don't have control of that.
Right.
But what you do have control of is how well you take care of the home.
Right. Periodically check to make sure your sump pump is working. We see people all the time where it's an inspection and the sump pump is no longer working. You have great drainage at the house. The sump pump hasn't had to do any work, and it's kind of dried out and rotted out.
That rubber on it,
Exactly.
gets all dried out. So.
But you want it to work when it needs to work.
Yes.
So every once in a while, check your stuff. Give yourself a list and do a checkup from the neck up all through your house.
Honest to goodness. And that's one of the things that we found as people purchase a home or sell a home. That's the time that these things are all checked. They get the professional inspection. However, for people that haven't moved for a long time, and I feel like there's more of those than ever before, it's still important to make sure you know what's going on in your house. You don't want these bad things happening that you don't even realize because you didn't know there was a filter or whatever.
Right.
All these things we've mentioned here.
Well, how often is the conversation of they would have taken care of it if they even had known?
Right. Exactly.
A lot of these things are easy to take care of, right? Mm-hmm. But things such as radon in your house or mold spores in your attic or your ducts being really clogged up and such, does it take you a little bit extra to take care of that and check it? Yes, but is your overall health better because of it?
Absolutely. It really is. And the thing to keep in mind is for someone who isn't taking care of their home, that shows up in the home in 100 little ways. And that's how it is. You have houses that look like they do, right? And I know as buyers are going to look at homes, they're very concerned about how the other houses around it are upkept or not.
Well, yeah, it all leads in together, right?
Yes.
But, on the same part is I have seen houses that look amazing on the surface and they didn't take care of those little things because it's out of sight, out of mind. Right. Things such as your filters, right? Now, the best advice I can give on all of these filters, Amazon is amazing for the subscribe feature.
Right.
The subscribe feature is amazing because you can say, I want a filter delivered every 3 months. And now you don't have to remember. The filter shows up on your front porch. You're like, oh, that means it's time to go down to the basement and change the filter.
Yeah.
Right? And do not forget the one in your refrigerator. That filter at the back of the refrigerator can get clogged up just as easily. If you have an RO system, you do not need the filter at the back of your refrigerator. They sell a plug to put in there instead of the filter, and it's specifically for the fact that you have an RO system that is doing a better job than the filter on the fridge.
I bet you a lot of people didn't realize that.
And you can remove that then because you spend $1,000 on a quality RO system with filters that you probably haven't changed either. So make sure you're changing those.
Honest to goodness. And when we were young, there's a lot of things about our home that we didn't know.
Right.
Like we learned along the way.
Yes.
And
well, I have the benefit of going to all these inspections and having the inspector give all of this advice to our clients.
Right.
So over the years, I've heard a lot of really good advice about the easy things to take care of your home. If you're getting water in your basement, a lot of times it's because of bad grading on your house. Add a little bit of dirt to the outside of the house, make sure it slopes away from the home and the water slopes away from your home. I have a part of my lawn that's getting really wet right here. Oh, well, look, your downspout got extended and it's going through this area right here and a root came through and now you have a clog in your extended downspout. Well, where's the water going? It's stopping right there and it's causing a wet spot. It's these easy things to take care of if you spend the time to look at those things and say, okay, what is my maintenance schedule of these small things to take care of? And then I don't have to worry about big things.
Right. Well, it's a great way to do it. And to know periodically, whether it's in the spring or in the fall, to take a walk around and, even once per season, because we recently had an issue. It's just unreal. We took pictures out at Thanksgiving because the weather was decent and so forth. So we have photographic evidence that there was nothing wrong with the soffit at Thanksgiving. But when was it? It was
4 weeks later, we had a hole in our soffit where a squirrel had burrowed its way through to get into our attic.
Out of nowhere, like a huge
Yeah, so now
hole.
we're getting that repaired. But we're taking care of it right away. But it's one of those things of you periodically have to take a walk around the house.
Yeah, because
you have to look at what's going on.
Christmas lights.
I was.
And that's when it was like, what is going on here?
Yeah, well, then I was like, how did I miss this?
Yeah.
And flipping through the phone, we found a picture,
and it was fine.
2 weeks earlier, and I was like, there was no damage.
So
this isn't my fault.
Yeah. So at least we caught it fast, but the thing of it is that you need to be looking at your house. It's so easy just to pull up, pull in, business as usual, and take a look at the house. Make sure that everything looks as it should.
Yeah, and take care of those little things. The best advice I can have is make sure you're changing your filters. Make sure you're on some kind of maintenance schedule or you're checking it out yourself. Make sure you're taking care of those gutters, because the things that we talked about are things that lead to bigger problems if you don't take care of them.
Right.
Would you rather have small tasks or big checks?
Yes. This is true. You can pick within your control,
right,
of taking care of things, or almost like with the health, right? If you're starting to have health issues, if you just kind of ignore it until finally it hits a breaking point and you go in and then you need surgery, or then it's something major. Whereas at least if you're taking care of yourself and coming in when there is an issue.
Right, exactly, 100%. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean that there's not going to be big ticket items.
Right.
That doesn't mean things aren't going to break, but you're minimizing your risk and you're extending the life of certain things in your house, right?
And that's bringing more value to what you have,
right,
and what you've spent.
Exactly. You can get yourself on a schedule.
Mm-hmm. Whether you purchased that or not, by purchasing the house, somebody purchased it.
Someone purchased it.
And they spent good money on it. So you may as well take advantage of the benefits 100%. You have.
And when you have these maintenance companies come in and do the maintenance, go downstairs and have a conversation with them. If they're coming in to take care of your water softener, talk to them about the water softener. Talk to them about the filters. Ask, how does this system work? How often should I be changing these things? They're the experts, they know, and they love to impart their wisdom to you.
That way you know about your house.
Yes.
And that way you have the best possible health, and so does your home.
Yes. So yeah, I think we went long and
sorry.
That's okay. So thank you guys all for listening today. Is there anything I missed?
I think that covers it. I think, this was a fun topic anyway, and I hope that people did get value out of it and learned something today, and we hope that we have been of service to you.
100%. So thanks so much for listening. Please like and subscribe. If you have any real estate needs at all, please reach out to us. We would love to help you in your home ownership journey in any way that we can. Check us out online at welcometolivingston.com. Thank you for listening today, and welcome
to Livingston.